That's a great story. The thing that I learned was that they do theater in Fort Collins for at least a week every year.
Yeah, well, actually, it's not always in Fort Collins. Sometimes it's in Idaho, and sometimes it's in Eastern Oregon. They travel all over the place.
What's this conference called?
The Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge, actually.
Well, bringing culture and sports all around
Oh,
the
yeah.
Western United States. We're just bringing it to Denver. We are the Denverse. I'm Derek.
And I'm Quinn.
And it was a week without the Nuggets really playing, but luckily all the other teams in town sort of picked up the slack for storylines.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll start where we were about this time last weekend, but last Saturday, in the Stadium Series at Air Force, the Air Force Academy Football Stadium, hockey game between the Colorado Avalanche and the Los Angeles Kings. The Avalanche's second Stadium Series, and I would say that most of the coverage about the game had very little to do with the game.
Pretty much, yeah.
There were stories of people stuck in traffic, not getting to the game until the second period, having to walk for 5 miles, turning around and going home, people not being able to find wheelchair access seats, people not being able to drink beer because they ran out too early. I was at the game. The stadium is also configured in a way where about half of the stadium requires 2 staircases on both sides of the western side of the arena to access. And so about 20,000 people had to get up 2 sets of stairs just to get to their seats and then get out. And in all of this, the Avalanche lost. They gave up a goal in the last minute and then an empty net goal to lose 3-1. They lost their starting goaltender, Philip Grubauer. They lost Matt Calvert. They'd already lost Kadri, and it hasn't gotten better since then. It has been a rough week for the Colorado Avalanche, and still the biggest topic was how long did you have to wait in traffic for the Stadium Series, which, once the game was over, got worse. There were people who waited up to 4 hours to get out of the parking lot. Apparently there was someone who died.
Oh, no.
On the north exit. We still don't know exactly what happened there.
Are they still trying to clear traffic to get to them? Jeez.
So that caused some problems. There was construction problems. They had to close lanes both ways. And luckily, because I have a friend that reads the website, we took the south gate instead of the north gate. It took us 2.5 hours to get there and 2 hours to get home.
Yeesh. I think one of the most comforting things of adulthood is realizing that no one has their shit together. Like the NHL, Air Force Academy, and all of the different organizations that put in money to make this thing happen. It's comforting to know that they can't always get things coordinated very well.
It is a little worrying since it feels like traffic control is a big part of the Air Force.
So China and Russia were watching this
yes, it's like, oh man, glad we got to see this. But it's more of a design issue of the Air Force Academy. There are 2 roads in and 2 roads out, which is great for when you have to do training expeditions where you just drop cadets off in the mountains and they're like, find your way home. Not so great when you need to get in there for a football game or a hockey game. I will say that the pageantry at the game was pretty amazing. They had 3 flyovers. They had someone parachute in with the American flag during the national anthem. They had all of the cadets sit by the field and then get to watch Sam Hunt, the big musical act. And it really, as I was watching this, I was looking down. I bought the second cheapest seats, and I think that they were the second best seats in the building. Because if you paid any more money than we did, you had to sit closer to the ice and could not see the ice because the boards were obstructing the view. People paid $400 to watch players skate and not be able to see the puck.
As a blue-collar broke-ass, there is some schadenfreude that goes into watching people spend a lot of money and then be dissatisfied. I did see a couple photos, at ringside, which wasn't ringside because it was still probably 50 yards in between the seats and the rink itself. But yeah, you really just couldn't see much of anything.
Well, and I don't know because I couldn't tell next to Folsom Field, but I do know that they have held track events in Air Force Academy. And so unlike Folsom, I think that the seats are further away from the field than they are in some other venues, too. I think that the area of field is bigger, and so that caused more problems. I So I was left thinking, these big events like this, and most NFL games, but especially the Super Bowl, who are they for? And this specifically was clearly not made for the fans. There was talk that the NHL has a contract with the armed forces, so that's why this game was at the Air Force Academy and not the much better venue, Folsom Field in Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
It looked great on TV. The uniforms, I think, looked really good on TV. In person, you could not tell who anyone on the Kings were because their numbers blended into their weird slash on the side of their uniforms. So if you're going to make made-for-TV events, which is all the outdoor games really are,
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't you treat the fans better? Like, why are you making them pay all this money if you're making an event for TV?
That's $1 million question. I found it really interesting.
More than $1 million,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I'm sure. In the NHL has to become more marketable, especially in terms of the TV market versus other leagues. But I just found it interesting that it became kind of a citywide holiday in that just all of a sudden there were Avs fans everywhere. And, Avs fans, although not as well seen as Rockies fans and Broncos fans on game days, like, they show up. And it was just interesting, all of that Saturday, you just saw people in Avs jerseys, some who clearly couldn't be going to the game, or they were the sad folks who showed up at the end of the third period because they left too late.
And it was sort of like an Avalanche fan fest. Like the Avalanche fan club Eurolanche flew in. This was where they made their trip. They do a trip every year. This year they did it around the game. There were people from Canada who came in. There were people that drove in. Like, this was like Avalanche Central, a celebration of Avalanche and some Kings fans. And this is how you get treated.
Yeah, that's really tough. Where did you have a moment of looking around the stadium in your cheapest seats, feeling like, wow, this is special?
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Like, the whole outdoor experience, I did love that part. Like, I'm really glad we went.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we experienced it. I went with my dad and some friends, and that was a nice experience. It's one of those events. I think I'll remember the Coors Field one more fondly. Just even as easy as we had it, it wasn't as easy as that game. And also, it was like 60 degrees during the Colorado Rockies game. This one, definitely below freezing, definitely got some chills.
Oh, really?
Where you're like, there's a chance, I don't think it's likely at this point, that the Avs are going to play Minnesota in the Winter Classic next year, the New Year's game, at Target Field in Minnesota. I'm not going to that game. This was enough for me.
Yeesh.
But I am glad that I did it. And I do think, being from Colorado, having some friends that have gone to the academy, been in the Air Force, like, that part of it I really did like.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that they had thought more about who this game was, like, made it more of a fan experience and not for TV. And I think that another place this always happens is the NCAA tournament games. My dad and I have gone for several years. We've probably gone between the ones here and other places 5 times, 6 times. They do not make that event for the fans. It is a TV event. The entertainment between timeouts is like the lowest quality of entertainment you can imagine. They have like 4 trivia questions on the screen where they're like, who won the NCAA championship in 2001? And you know the answer because you've already seen it 100 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's that low level of entertainment where it's like, this is for TV. This is not for the fans. And I just think, I understand that that's where we're going. We see the best and worst of that because we work at the Broncos Stadium where we don't have to pay, but it is grueling to go to an NFL game because it's so long, getting there, the traffic, like, it's your day.
Yeah, totally. And I've never gotten to experience tailgating in its truest form.
Mm-hmm.
But even that seemed just like pretty tedious, especially in the later months where you have to just commit to being outside, limited bathrooms, and you have to kind of like drink to stay warm to a point, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, it's time to go in, and then that whole procession that happens. Like, there's nothing that feels better than we're coming up the service tunnel, and you just see the crush of people, and it's like, hard left. We don't even have to touch it. That's interesting. I'm trying to think of, like, what's the worst NBA, timeout entertainment.
Yeah.
Like the Red Panda, she's a G. She always does the right thing. But the Simon Says guy, I'm like, how did you finesse your way into getting checks doing just aggressive kind of mean Simon Says?
I don't know if this person does it anymore, but did you ever see the human slinky?
What?
It was someone who was in a plastic tube like a slinky that was human sized, and they would do slinky tricks with their body so it looked like the slinky was moving. That to me was the worst halftime entertainment I ever saw, but also I'm sad that I have not seen it again.
You're right. You don't know what you got till it's gone. It's like you can't appreciate it in the moment, but in the past, it's like, oh man, I wish I could experience it. Because what the hell is a slinky trick? Like, besides going down a flight of stairs.
That was basically it. It was just a lot of like that. And like sometimes a slinky would split in two and you'd be like, which side of the slinky is the person in? Like it was that level. And I just think, I mean, I get it. It's all about money. We have this with the NFL trying to both expand the playoffs and expand the season where you're just like, they want to add a 17th game and they want to add another team on each side of the conferences for the playoffs. And you're just like, it's not broken for the fans, but the money that they can get out of having one extra wild card spot and all the teams that might have had a chance. The Broncos would have been in the race 2 more weeks if they'd had another wild card spot this year.
I mean, like those on the bubble teams, they don't deserve that hope.
No.
Like, honestly, like when we're talking about the fans, that would just hurt us more. Having to like that Detroit game and really having to like invest emotion into it. That would suck so much, I feel. Ugh. But yeah, that's you mentioned that. I was like, yeah, who was that for? Like it felt as if the NFL saw the NBA's switch in the All-Star game, which was great, by the way.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we can do something cool too, guys. Look, like an extra wild card team. Weird.
Well, I guess we don't have a point to this story. Just like make the games for the fans.
Yeah, true.
They are the ones that are paying for everything you're doing.
Well, I think you speaking this from a place of privilege, having a less miserable experience, really solidifies the fact that like they should do something. Because even someone who had an okay experience, you realize that you were lucky to go to the game, and it only took 2.5 hours to get.
Yes, it was. I only spent 4.5 hours in a car, and some people spent 3 times that. Maybe, probably not 3 times, but close. I know that Adrian Dater's car broke down about 2 in the morning, but it was because it was an electric car. So, according to his Twitter, 8 miles from home. So, really sorry, Dater.
After many long days without the Denver Nuggets basketball, the Nuggets play tonight, as of recording, in Oklahoma City against a Thunder team that is greatly outplaying the assumptions going into the season. Although we didn't get Nuggets basketball, we did get to see Nuggets star Nikola Jokic just tear it up during All-Star Week.